Hi there, this is Pranav from DPS Diary. I hope you are doing great. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on your geographic location. So today we are going to talk about database consistency check. Okay, how many types are there that you can find out easily, but then which ones are doing which job? Okay, and something which we configure like dbccdb, and why do we configure, and what is the use of that, all that thing we are going to cover in today's session. Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel and also watching the videos that I have published. And also if you want more in-depth stuff like what all things uh, I have talked about the session, so you can actually buy that, and I'm going to put all the like topic wise which I talked about earlier, and then you can buy individual also, so that will not be I mean, you don't need to buy the complete bunch. Whichever you feel, whichever thing you feel you need, you can buy that stuff only. Even there I will have option like you can buy the only PDF which I have used in my lab with some description and with some examples, and then we will have video, and then you can also buy the complete stuff. Okay, complete stuff means it will be like it will contain the video, it will contain the lab, both the things will be there in that. Okay, and if you have any question, yes, feel free to ask me anytime or in terms of comment, or in terms of you can even send me an mail, or you can reach out to me through anything that you know me on the YouTube comment or even on my website. Okay, so let's get started. So I have my lab ready, so let me start the recording first. Okay, so what I have done is I have put the set of command which I am going to use, and I will show you how do we create dbccdb, how do we make use of that. Okay, what all reports are there which is available when you run the like any checking. So before going into dbccdb, so you understand that there are multiple consistency check that we have available from RDBMS, okay, even for SQL or for Sybase or for other database as well. So this actually, I mean, there are different types of command which does different stuff. Okay, so consistency check is not always for consistency check. So the last part, so if you see dbcc, then you can do check db. So that will actually do checking database, and that will do for each and every table. So basically check table, if you do check table for all the tables in a database, that is nothing but check db. Okay, then we have something like you can say check storage, then we have check verify, then you also have dbcc trace on. That is not actually the database consistency check, but then even that falls in the category of dbcc because you are doing something on the database side, right? So I mean, if you run check db or check table, or if you do some other command, so in that case what happens is when you have a busy environment, like you have oltp which is used 24/7. Okay, so if you run the check table or check database, so it will start causing blocking, and then it is very difficult to run that because that will start impacting your operations, you will start impacting your business. So what do we do is we have something called dbccdb that we can configure, and we can run certain command which, I mean, it doesn't do that exhaustive operation that is done by checkdb or check table or some other command, but at a minimum scale it does something which can tell you that your database is still having consistency. There is chance, I mean, there are no faults, there are no soft fault, there are no hard fault, there is no suspect page and all. So basically what does it do is it will check the metadata of all the objects. Okay, not the data but the metadata, and for that reason it does store certain thing in the dbccdb. Okay, so I hope I have made it clear. You can read more about that, but then how do we actually configure it, how do we use that, all that thing we are going to cover today. Okay, so as I talked about check db and then check table, so these things, and then there are some certain command which we cannot run without having dbccdb in place. Okay, so first thing first, let's see what else server we have. So here we are having ASE1 which is running right now. So ISQL -s ASE1 and I am in ASE1. Okay. Now, if I want to run something, so let's see what all database I have. So you will see that dbccdb is not present right now. So that needs to be configured, that needs to be created. Okay. So if I go into use user db, right, this database I have here, and then let me see what all tables I have. So test underscore EP, test underscore unique, and test underscore DL, these tables are there. So I can do dbcc check table, okay, test underscore EP, which I had used, I think, for the execution plan. Okay, so I can run that, and then it will perform the consistency of this particular table. Okay, so if there is any error, it will report it here. So you will see checking partition test underscore EP. Okay, logical page size of this table is 4096. This is nothing but the max page size that we have configured on our server. The data page that is doing, then how many rows it has got 30 rows. Okay, if you have doubt, you can run sp underscore test help test underscore EP, and you will find that there are 30 rows in that. Row count 30. Okay, so this is command which you can run without having dbccdb in place. Okay, and you can also run dbcc check db. So I ran for check table. So now you can do check db of the user db. Okay, it will perform check table for each tables in that database. Okay, that is what it does. So you will see test underscore ep, then test underscore dl, test underscore unique, all that thing will be done, and also it will talk about certain system objects which is there in the database. Okay, so that is how it does. Now suppose I run dbcc check storage, okay, user db. Okay, so it will give you the message that the database user dbccdb was not found. Okay, so if you want to run check storage, then you need to have dbccdb in place. Okay, so what we'll do is we have the list of command that we have put here. So and then like how do you create database, and then what all sizing will be there, because it depends on the database that you have in your environment, the size of that, then how many cores are there, and then how much memory and all you need to have. So for that we have a stored procedure which is sp underscore plan underscore dbccdb. This will tell you when you are planning to do it, what all things you need to have in place before you create database. Okay, so it's very much you should read that. So recommended size for dbc database is 68 MB. It is also giving you the size of data and size of log. So 45 MB for data and 23 MB for log. Then it also checks for existing devices currently free. Okay, so right now you see there is no device, and then what is the, so here actually we configure scan workspace, okay, then text workspace, cache size, and then we also need to do the worker process. Okay, so these 3-4 things are there that we need to have in place before we run the check storage for any database. Okay, so now here there are two options to run dbccdb. Okay, you can do in parallel or you can do sequential. So when we configure for sequential, so what do? Is we take the largest database, the one which is, I mean, if you see here scan workspace, so you see the maximum one is 2432K. So we'll take that value and then we'll configure our workspace according to that. However, if we have to do parallel, then what we need to do is we need to configure dbccdb for each database. So if we have labdb, so we need to configure one for this database which is having 1568K as a scan workspace, and then text workspace we need to configure according to that. Then you have user db, so this one will be configured separately with the scan, text, what is the cache, so everything will be configured separately. But then the advantage of that is you can run this check storage for each database in parallel, so then execution will be much faster, but then it will require more you can say memory, it will require more sizing, more worker process and all that. So it will put more load, but then it will become much faster. Okay, so now we know what all things we need to have. So before we move forward, let us copy this okay, because we need to use that when we create database dbccdb. Okay, so we'll keep it here. So now what we'll do, let us create one device of 50 MB, okay, dbcc underscore data. Okay, just to show you that when we have the device in place, so now it will tell you that this device is actually available. Okay, so it will tell you that there is a device available, we can use that, and it is not checking the name dbcc or anything like that. If there is any free device, it will give you that in the listing. Okay, so that is good. Now what will, this is just to show you example that even if the name is abc underscore x, even then it will show you. Okay, so let us create the log now. dbcc data is created. Now we will create the dbcc underscore log. Okay, now we will create the database. Okay, so this is just normal creation, like how do we create any other database. There is no difference in that. So database name, then default segment and log segment. We have already talked about the segment, so you can refer to that in case of any question. So database is getting created right now. So this is having size of 50 MB for data and 30 MB for log. So 30 MB database you have. So now if you go to this database, okay, and if you do sp underscore help, so you will not find anything extra here. There is nothing which will do something for dbcc, right? So we need to do something more than what we have just, I mean, just by creating database name dbccdb, it doesn't do anything because everything is same. Your device creation is as normal as we do for other database, and then even for database creation we use the exact same command that we use for any other database. Okay, so now what we will do is, now we need to create the segment. Okay, so as I mentioned before, so we have scan segment and text segment that is used for this particular database. So we are giving the size of first let's create the segment. Okay, so before, if you do that, so sp underscore help segment, I have taken this topic already. Okay, so by default we will have three segments: system, default and log segment. But then when you create a segment in the database, so here scans, this is the name of the segment, you can refer to my session. Okay, and this is nothing but the device name. Okay, so the segment is created. If you want, you can check that using sp underscore help segment. You will see that there will be one more segment which is called scan set. Likewise, we will create the other segment which is for the text segment. Okay, so this is also created. So now you can verify that again by using sp underscore help segment. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? What is the next? Next, what we will do is, now this I have already showed you. Now we need to perform the installation of dbccdb and dbcc check storage, okay, and user db. Let's see. cc check, okay, spelling is not correct. Check storage. Okay, so too many worker processes are configured for the available. That's just a warning. Okay, just wait for a few seconds, it will complete. Okay, so you see that it's dbcc check storage for database sequence 1 completed at March. It is giving the time, date and time. 0 faults and 0 suspect conditions are located. 0 checks were aborted. You should investigate the recorded faults. So in our case, there is no suspected faults or any suspect. Okay, so check storage. So check storage will check what all things are there. Then there is something called dbcc check verify. So sometime what happens is, check storage will print this false or suspect condition which may not be actually the it may not be the real one. Okay, it is spurious, something that is called. Okay, so to verify that or to cross verify, we have a command check verify. So it will check only those things which is reported in the check storage. Okay, so now you do that check verify, and then it is doing, you see it is, so 0 suspect conditions and 0 identifies faults, everything is good, there is no problem at all. Okay, So, and 0 could not check because there is nothing which needs to be checked. Okay. So, we have been able to run that, and you saw it was very fast. Even CheckDB it was fast, but not this much fast. I mean, you will see that when you have a very large database and very large tables inside that. So, how much is the difference? I mean, CheckDB or check tables could take hours and hours, even in days, or sometimes it takes week also, depending on the size of database. However, this check storage, it will run very fast. Very fast does not mean it will finish in minutes. Again, depends on the size, but relatively it will be much faster. Okay, now we have something which is for the report. So that let us see. So let us go and see the report now. Okay, so let's run the report. So we ran it one time. So you see check storage and then check verify, what time it started, what time it ended. So you see it took 8 seconds, and here it took almost within a second it finished. If there is anything, it will tell you here. Okay, so false, soft, false, column, all that it will give you the information here. Okay, so this is something that we ran. Now if you want to run, we can run it one more time, and then we can see how it actually prints the report. So check storage. Now let's do for LabDB. Okay, let's see. So earlier we ran for UserDB, now we'll run for LabDB. Okay, now we'll also do check verify LabDB. Okay, so it is completed. Now you can run the report one more time, summary report, and you will see you have entry for both the database. Now UserDB, it took 8 seconds, this one also took 8 seconds, and for check verify also, this one finished, both of them finished within a second, but then there is nothing to report for faults or for any suspects. Okay, so that is how it actually works. Okay, so what is remaining now? Yes, so okay, so we have covered dbccdb. How do we configure it, how do we use it, and what all things are there to check before we do the configuration, and what all things we can expect. So this is a good way of checking your database, but not the most reliable way, but one of the efficient way, which is faster, will not cause any blocking. Okay, so which will not cause blocking and locking, but then it will still use resources. So it is suggested to run this report when you in the off office hours or off business hour, when the load on the server is very less. Okay, so that should be all, I think. So thank you very much, appreciate your time. Thank you. Yeah.